Mm-hmm. I can hide also. Okay. 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 This is going. Okay, welcome everybody on the recording. And now welcome everyone on Facebook and Instagram. Welcome. We have an amazing session prepared today. For those of you, by the way, my internet was completely down yesterday. I couldn't even go. It was a mess. I don't know what's happening with the internet lately. Lots of issues. So I couldn't even go live. So the element session of the Pyramid of Consciousness will be transferred for next Tuesday. Rest assured, I will do it. I was actually thinking maybe I should just sit down and do it in recording, but I felt like it comes out better when it's live on Facebook and Instagram. You know, it's more organic kind of thing. Okay. So that's that. Everything else, we have an amazingly interesting session I have prepared for you, ladies and gentlemen, if there are any, I'm hoping, right? If we have it. As I say, gentlemen, I'm hoping, I'm reminded by Pavel Piskaryov every year when he starts the instructor's course or any other, you know, he has the basic user course every month in Russian, and he, every time he sees in the feed, you know, when people write their comments and everything, when he sees a male name, he gets so excited because he's so used to, you know, most of the time women coming to all this, you know, Neurographica psychology sessions. Actually, no, more Neurographica than psychology, because his other courses like Bogoban and, you know, the Pyramid of Development actually does have male students, not a lot also, but, you know, they're more. So same thing here, right? I'm saying hopefully there will be some gentlemen. But anyway, welcome. We have an amazingly interesting session, and I am planning to share with you today. Today, our topic will be something we call dignity in money. Dignity, okay? Now, I do hope you're not expecting me to talk about some kind of medieval time dignity, you know, where knights are supposed to fight and deserve the attention of their ladies, of the, you know, the queen or the other ladies. But deserve is the right word here. We are going to bring it in. Okay. I actually originally in my notes, I have notes for all of my lectures, sessions, discussions. In my notes, it actually says this. The name is dignity, not necessarily merit. Okay. It's interesting to start looking into this. This constantly comes up, not as much as, you know, whenever we work with money or any other psychological issue or any other goals and topics we're trying to figure out. The idea of, you know, we constantly discuss such things as limiting beliefs. You know, I brought you guys the idea of family system, how important, how significant is the family system when it comes to, in this case, let's say money, but we all know it's not just money, okay? Svetlana Gorbach, who created the program, Psychology of Money, Kesef, actually always says that, oh, Marinочка, hi, how are you? She always says that money is not about money. It's never about money. It's about the underlying psychological blocks, inhibitions, you know, secondary beliefs we have that kind of shown to us through the symbol of money, okay? So that's very interesting to start understanding. Money is never about money. Money is what's behind it. Today, we're going to talk about dignity being behind money, okay? It is so interesting to start noting. Give me a second. Excellent. So here it's here. It's so interesting to start noting that often we, as I often talk to my participants, to my clients, and there is a phrase, right? We discuss a lot about limiting beliefs, like I said, family systems, right? Affirmations, you know, sometimes affirmations don't work. What do we do, right? One thing we don't talk much is about dignity, is about merit-based expectation, okay? Something that the other day my students, my clients said, and I related to that because it's something we all have. It was reflected within me. The discussion was about, you know, this expectation to reach your goal. However, sometimes, I just realized, guys, I didn't open my beautiful window here for everybody to see, my beautiful trees outside. But it's interesting to start noting, we often focus on the goal. However, as people start becoming more conscious of who they are, what are they interested in, the interesting thought comes in. Not everybody catch it, by the way, but at a certain moment, the more you work, the more you're going to understand that this idea, I'm not afraid of reaching my goal. I mean, I'm not afraid of not reaching my goal. The opposite, I'm afraid of reaching my goal. Okay. Sometimes people start thinking, once I reach my goal, what's going to happen? You know, there is this blank, the stare, right? You know, reaching the goal is considered to be the highest possible achievement there is. And afterwards, there is this kind of fear, underlying fear, completely unconscious, right? When we start thinking, once I reach my goal, what's going to happen, right? And since it's so unconscious, most people do not start thinking about it and do not start asking further questions, right? Further questions would be, once I reach my goal, what do I do? Who will I be? This comes from the childhood, right? It comes from the way we were raised when we were born, right? Even before we were born, right? Our parents were pregnant and they would go to the doctor and the doctor would measure, you know, all those statistical, medical information. And why do they do that? When you go, why do you need to go to the doctors? Why do you need to go to OBGYN while you're pregnant? Because they measure, they want to make sure everything is fine, is safe with you, which is good. They're also doing something that they try to compare you to the statistics. Okay, now statistics, to say like in a very generalized way, you should really read it. I remember taking the statistical course in college, and I was astonished at what I found out, what statistics is, what are all of those average, right? So very generally speaking, statistics is like they're taking a general information, you know, like generally speaking, you know, people who come to Neurographica are mostly females, okay? Is there an official statistics on that? No, there is not, okay? But, you know, it's generally understanding. Now, statistics is when people actually sit down, count up how many people come to learn, how many of them are females, how many of them are males. I'm in a PhD program now, so that's something I'm gonna actually have to do this year. I'm like preparing myself. I don't mind actual statistics. I'm a math person, so I don't mind that. But I was like, you know, started to think what part, you know, what am I going to do within my research? The interesting idea is that ever since we weren't even born, right? Ever since we're in the womb, we are being compared. We are being expected to be like the most. Expected, there are two parts here. One is expected to be like the most, which is called average, right? Which is called like you're not supposed to be less. Okay, that's a different side of the coin. And the second part is expected to be the best. Okay. So you are expected to be like the best, but the second part, you're expected to be the average, but that part, somebody doesn't tell you something. The important part that you're not being told about it is that you're not expected to be average. You're just not supposed to be not average, below average, okay? You can be not average if it means you are the best, you are the most optimal, right? When I was doing education, when I was in education, one of the programs I developed while living in New York City was the program for children being able to enter the gifted and talented program. Okay, there's a certain aptitude test that the children take. And I actually developed a program that would allow the children to, you can't become all of a sudden high intelligent, but you can develop yourself. You can train yourself to certain kind of practices and certain kind of tests, okay? And guess what? Most of the time, most of my clients, I think almost all of my clients, again, not statistically, didn't count, but almost all of my clients were Russian parents who have, people from Soviet Union who have this innate, and by innate, I do mean it became a collective unconscious level where you're supposed to excel, you're supposed to succeed, you're supposed to be not just better than everybody, you're supposed to be the best, okay? And the expectation was that, children would be entering this very highly aptitude. I'm not joking, guys. When I looked at that test, the first time I looked at it, right, when I started looking into it and thinking, what is this? Let me see. People are asking. People would ask, can you do this? And I'm like, let me look into this. I took the aptitude test. It was not easy to pass. I was a grown-up person, right? I'm an educator. I graduated with a master's. So you can imagine how complicated it would be for the kids. It was really high, complicated aptitude questions, logic, inference, and everything else, okay? The idea is that when we started growing up, first, our parents who are used to this, who are expected, right? They supposed to read this book, right? That tells you about the way the average child develops, or they go to the pediatrician who tells them, your child is supposed to do this, this, and that. So parents, most of the parents are not educators, right? As they joke, that's one thing you don't need a degree, right? That's one job you don't need a degree for. You can become a mom or a dad without having any certification in it, right? And most of the time, parents, they get very, very nervous if their child happens to be less than what, the pediatricians or what they read in the book. So they develop this highly, and of course, we all know that it comes earlier, that they themselves were expected, but generally, we grew up where our parents expect us to be this perfectionist, okay? Our parents are constantly, if they don't, by the way, they are asked by their environment, right? The neighbors will say, so what is your child doing? I have a 2-month-old too. Did your child start smiling at you? Did your child start laughing? Oh, your child is 6 months old. Did the child start crawling? And the parent is like, my child is supposed to start crawling. He just started turning around, right? Part of my job was as a special education teacher. I was an evaluator. I would actually go in and evaluate children, and I would explain to parents. And by the way, in order to, for example, to get special education services, you would have to be delayed 25 to 33%. 25 to 33%, guys. Not 50%, not 60, not 70%, no. So if your child is 6 months old and doesn't crawl, right? We had parents who called us and say, my child doesn't crawl. Can you come and do an evaluation? I would evaluate and say, this is with an average. Your child is supposed to start crawling by the age of 8 to 9 months, maybe even 10 months, okay? And the parents would be like, are you sure? Because they're used to this idea that they're expected to do the perfectionist from them, okay? So they start developing it with their child. The child is supposed to, and by the way, in the beginning, the child doesn't understand it consciously on the mental level. The child understands emotionally. We spoke about it, right? The child catches this waves of energy. Mommy is upset, daddy is upset. Why? Child, we talked about it, depends on the personality, but a lot of time personalities will go into, did I do something wrong to get mommy or daddy upset? Right? And that's where it starts developing. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I did something wrong. Can I do something better? Right? We talked about it during the family system where the souls, where a person starts looking and saying, I made somebody upset. Maybe it's my job to make sure my parents are happy. Okay, it's not your job to make sure your parents are happy. I'm just going to give you an answer to that question right away now. But in general, continuing our discussion, okay? The person started developing this idea, am I worthy? Okay? The person started developing the idea that everything in this world is dependent upon merit, or do I deserve this, right? And excuse me, I'm just going to drink. Right, and the parents, they actually support that idea. How? By starting with the idea that if you do this, if you clean up your room, you get a candy. If you do this, you get that. If you do your homework, you get, you can, watch TV or get device time, right? I remember reading one of the educators, a Russian-speaking Dima Zixer. He lives in St. Petersburg, and he opened up, he calls it an anti-schooling school. More likely like unschooling kind of school. If those of you who understand what unschooling is, it's something you can research. It's absolutely amazing. I practiced this when my children were homeschooling, but the idea is, he says that when parents do that, that's called manipulation, right? If an adult comes to you, by the way, tell me if it reminds you of something, but if an adult comes to you and tells you, if you clean this place, I will give you movie tickets, okay? You'll get to go to the movie theater. Okay, what does it remind you? Most of you will say this is what job is, right? You do a work and you get paid. I'm going to tell you, yes, you're right. And that's an adult approach, right? But we spoke about it. Money is not bartering, but money is energy, okay? You're putting your energy, your creativity into something, and then you receive something back. You receive, I remember reading and studying this, in Judaism, in religion, by the way, not just Judaism, any religion. Money is it comes from God, right? Now, those of you who are not religious, you don't have to believe in God, right? It's okay. That's not what I'm here about. But the point is, you can think the same idea. Money comes from the universe, right? Same energy, right? Money comes from the universe, right? So when you give something to the universe gives you back. It's an exchange program, okay? But it's not manipulation, okay? This is the wrong kind of idea to think that I can only get money when I do something. It's not about you must do something to get money. It's about what do you want to do? How do you want to share your creativity? I want to bring a shift here in the thinking, okay? But going back to the childhood idea, right? Remember, this is what parents do. If you do this, I'll give you that, right? And this way they start creating this idea within a child that in order to get something from the world, I need to constantly become according to their expectations. And by the way, this continues in school, right? With teachers, remember how teachers always pick on those who are like excelling, right? On those who are the best students, right? They're called to the front of the class. They're bringing as an example, they're exemplified, they're shown as a way, and other children are like, oh, so if I want to get attention, I need to become like this person. Even if it's not something I like to do, I guess the most, some of you in Neurographica may relate to this, right? Most ideal example would be in art, right? When in school, children are taught that the trunk is supposed to be brown, the leaves are supposed to be green. So those children who had a different imagination, right? Who wants to make their leaves red and the trunk blue, right? They want to have creativity in their mind. They're more imaginative. They're more, fantasies are more alive within them. But if A, they don't get attention, or B, even worse, they get negative attention from the teacher, right? The teacher will tell them what you did was wrong, right? Then what happens? What happens is that they start changing themselves and saying, the world doesn't accept me the way I am. I need to become what the world wants me to be. Maybe I need to become this view of perfectionists, right? Like this boy or this girl who constantly gets high scores, who constantly does what the teacher asking them to do, right? And this way they're subsiding, they're decreasing who they really are in real person, right? And this kind of thinking, starts coming into the it starts developing into a mindset of a human being, right? Of a person. And the person grows up thinking that's what it's supposed to be. I'm supposed to go according to what the world expects me to do. And we all know that when we start working with any integrative programs, right, it's about connecting with your soul. We talked about it. It's the four worlds, right? And the soul world is on the very top. It's the last word to reach because we're first on the physical, then we have the emotional and the mental world. The last world to reach is the spiritual world, the soul world, okay? And we know that on a children's level, most of the time, children are completely and fully connected with their soul world, okay? And when they start seeing that the world, the environment, the universe around them does not accept them the way they are, they start detaching themselves. They start thinking what they hear, right? And what they hear from parents, from teachers is something is wrong with me. That means I need to change. I need to become more acceptable, right, guys? Social trauma doesn't start in teens, by the way. It starts on the very early. If at any time the child goes to school or any time, even before, like we talked about it, it starts when the child is born. Apgar score, those of you who know, I don't know in other countries, I'm assuming the same thing. In America, when a child is born, newborn, as soon as they're born, within the first few seconds, they're put against the Apgar score. I'm trying to remember. The Apgar score actually scores how the child's color of the skin, I believe, how the child screamed. Don't remember something else. The color of the skin, I remember how the child screams. 3 other things, okay? 5, basically they're already scored. Can you imagine the child just came out of the womb? The child is already getting scores. I remember the first time I learned, and I remember getting the Apgar score from my oldest daughter, my firstborn. I'm like, you know, she scored 9 out of the 10. She's perfect. And the nurse goes to me 9.5. And I'm like, oh, perfection, right? This idea, we start developing right away. You're supposed to be perfection, not according to who you are, but a perfection according to what the world expects you to do. How does this reflect through the money is a real question. The way this is reflected through the money is that we expect the amount of money from the universe that we deserve. And this is the shift that we're working on, right? This is where we start doing those practical exercises, right? All those practical exercises that I gave you on Monday, an amazingly powerful exercise. If you haven't seen, go see you can go on YouTube, you can go on my feed, see the video from Monday. I gave you an amazing practical exercise where you start working with who you are based on your dignity. We're going to talk about this much more, by the way, the idea of dignity as opposed to merit, because most of us, we are expecting to get paid accordingly. Okay, but there is this something, right? Our soul, my daughter, right? She went to a Hebrew preschool, and she comes one day and she tells me, "Mom, can you tell me where God is?" Right? And I'm like, I'm expecting, right? The usual. I know how it works in daycares. They say God is everywhere, right? And I'm saying God is everywhere, right? I'm like, I know this answer, right? With my daughter, and she was like 4 years old, and she goes, one important place, God is inside your soul. I'm like, whoa, you know, it hit me because the word soul in Hebrew has the word name into it. Name is the name of God. Okay. It's so interesting. It hit me at that moment. I'm like, wait a minute, I'm 40 something years old. I just got to this idea that my soul contains this spark of God, right? This Kabbalistic idea that each of us have a spark of godliness of the universe within us. And I'm like, whoa, how amazing it is. She's 4 years old and she already knows this. And that shook me because that showed me what we discussed in the Ho'oponopono program, that one of the important parts we do is transformation within us. But then we start noticing the transformation around us, okay? So when my 4-year-old comes and starts telling me that we live in this world, not based on merit, not because somebody deserves it, not because somebody deemed that they deserve it, but based on dignity, based on the fact that each one of us has this godliness, this spark, this universal spark within our soul. And each one of us is here de facto already being a part of the world and having something to bring to the world, okay? So we're going to talk more about it. Dignity, right? I'm going to name it dignity. Dignity within myself, how to develop dignity in children, right? And everything else. An amazing, amazing topic that I feel, like I said before, money is not about money, even though we're talking about money, but we know that behind money, there is something else, right? We're facing our shadows. We're actually in our financial regeneration course, which we're going to start now. We're going to go into something deeper. We're going to actually work with labyrinths. We're going to get to work with the Minotaur, right? Minotaur, according to Jung, is a shadow part of who we are. So that's how we're going to start working. We're going to start facing our shadows. And we know that our shadows do not come out openly. That's why they're called shadows. They don't come in the light. We see them in different symbols, just like the MAC cards that I did last time with you, right? Just like by looking at a simple card, you can start understanding that there's something behind it. Same thing here. Any symbols I give you, if I give you a symbol of money now, because that's what we're discussing, psychology of money, you start thinking, what does it represent? What is the shadow hidden behind it? And that's when we're going to start working with it, okay? I want to thank you for this, for your attention, for this amazing session, for allowing me to express this important topic, right? Which I feel, and I do hope you relate to it. You can write to me in comments, you can write to me in PM. Do you feel this was relevant to you? Do you feel this is important to you? Because we need to start learning, and this is what I'm going to leave you with. Starting to understand that our accomplishments, starting to understand that when we get somewhere, when we have a goal, a topic, our goal is not just to get to the goal, right? We all know that there's the saying, the pathway is also important, but also when you get to the goal, what do you do then? Do you start looking anxiously around and saying, oh boy, what is my next goal? Or something that we have been taught, right? Looking around and saying, okay, we achieved this, what's next? Looking around and saying, what is this accomplishment? Do I enjoy it? Do I like it? How am I changing? Am I transforming? Allowing the accomplishment to take place, right? We call it the Sabbath. All nations have Sabbaths, right? Muslim people celebrate Fridays. Christian people celebrate Sundays. Jewish people celebrate Saturday. We all need to have a day of rest, right? This universal idea of the day of rest. Why? Why do we need the day of rest? Because this is how we become complete. This is how we look around and say, what did I accomplish this week? Amazing accomplishment. Let me integrate it within myself and let me start understanding who am I as a result of this new amazing accomplishment. Because guess what? You are changing with each and every second, minute, day, week, and so on. It's important to stop, look around and say, what are my accomplishments? Do I like it? And yes, ask yourself that question. Or maybe I don't like it so much. And then like we do in the biodynamics class, right? We take this something, we look at it and say, do I want it? Do I need it? We take it. If we don't want it, we let it go, right? This is important. Not just collect and taking and taking and taking, like the culture of just taking because we got it, we accomplished. Do you want this accomplishment? Do you need it? And only then, after you integrate the accomplishment, you can fully understand where do you go from there, okay? Again, very quick session on some really important topic. I want to wish you a wonderful, wonderful weekend for all of you. Those of you in financial generation, we're going to start working an amazing session today. Everybody on Instagram and Facebook, I want to thank you for your attention, for your giving me your attention and listening. And I do invite you, I do welcome you to share with me your comments, your thoughts. If you want to have is there any other ideas about dignity that you would like to discuss, or maybe not necessarily about dignity, but welcome. Okay. Wishing you a beautiful weekend ahead and enjoy your accomplishments and enjoy your rest. Okay.